Did you know World War I was supposed to be the war to end all wars? But what if I told you everything you think you know about it is just scratching the surface? We're about to dive deep into the Great War, beyond the trenches, and into the minds of those who started it. I'm a historian and storyteller, and I've spent years uncovering the hidden narratives of this global conflict. Prepare to understand the complex web of alliances, the shocking technological advancements, and the human cost of unprecedented scale. In this video, we'll explore the real reasons behind World War I, beyond the simple textbook explanations. First, we'll unpack the tangled web of European alliances that made war almost inevitable. Then, we'll reveal the unexpected spark that ignited the powder keg. It's not what you think. Finally, we'll examine the brutal realities of trench warfare and why it defied all expectations. Let's start by dismantling the myth that it was solely about the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. While the assassination was the catalyst, the real causes were decades in the making. Imagine Europe as a pressure cooker, simmering with nationalistic tensions and imperial rivalries. For decades, European powers were engaged in a frantic arms race, building massive armies and navies. This militarization created an atmosphere of paranoia and fear, where any spark could set off an explosion. Think of Germany, a rising power eager to flex its muscles on the world stage. Germany felt encircled by France and Russia, and sought to challenge British naval dominance. This ambition clashed directly with existing empires like Britain and France, creating intense friction. But wait, there's more. The alliance system acted like a tripwire, pulling everyone into the conflict. Europe was divided into two major blocs, the Triple Alliance and the Triple Entente. The Triple Alliance, initially Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy, was formed for mutual defense. On the other side, the Triple Entente linked France, Russia, and Great Britain in a less formal agreement. These alliances meant a local conflict could quickly escalate into a continental war, and that's exactly what happened. Now, let's zoom in on the assassination itself, and why it was far more than just a political murder. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was assassinated in Sarajevo. The assassin, Gavrilo Princip, was a Serbian nationalist seeking to unite all Slavic peoples. Austria-Hungary, with German backing, used this as an excuse to crush Serbia and assert dominance. But here's the crucial point. Austria-Hungary's ultimatum to Serbia was designed to be rejected. They knew Serbia couldn't fully comply, providing the perfect pretext for war. This wasn't just about punishing Serbia. It was about Austria-Hungary maintaining its crumbling empire, and Germany saw this as an opportunity to finally reshape the European power balance in their favor. Russia, obligated to defend Serbia as a fellow Slavic nation, mobilized its army in response. Germany then declared war on Russia, and subsequently on France, activating the alliance system. Germany's Schlieffen Plan, a strategy to quickly defeat France before turning to Russia, dictated their actions. This plan required invading neutral Belgium, which brought Great Britain into the war to defend Belgian neutrality. So the assassination was the spark, but the fuel was decades of rising tensions, aggressive nationalism, and rigid alliances. But how did these political decisions translate into the brutal reality of trench warfare? World War I quickly became a war of attrition, characterized by static trench lines stretching for miles. Imagine soldiers living in rat-infested trenches, facing constant shelling, disease, and the threat of sniper fire. The technology of war had advanced far beyond military tactics, creating unprecedented slaughter. Machine guns, poison gas, tanks, and airplanes made traditional infantry charges suicidal. Battles like the Somme and Verdun resulted in hundreds of thousands of casualties for minimal territorial gains. The stalemate on the Western Front became a symbol of the war's futility and horrific nature. But what if I told you that even within this brutal landscape, there were moments of unexpected humanity? Despite the orders to kill, soldiers on opposing sides sometimes found common ground in their shared suffering. The Christmas Truce of 1914, though unofficial and short-lived, showed a glimmer of human compassion amidst the carnage. Soldiers from both sides emerged from their trenches, exchanged gifts, and even played football in no man's land. These moments, while rare, highlight the human element often lost in grand narratives of war. However, the war also saw a dark side of humanity, with propaganda demonizing the enemy and fueling hatred. Governments used propaganda to maintain public support for the war, portraying it as a noble and righteous cause. This propaganda often relied on exaggerated stories of enemy atrocities and appeals to nationalistic fervor. The reality of the trenches was far removed from the romanticized images presented in propaganda posters. Now, let's consider the global scale of World War I and why it truly deserves the title World War. The conflict wasn't limited to Europe. It involved colonies and nations across the globe. Soldiers from Africa, Asia, and Australia fought in European trenches, often under conscription. Battles were fought in Africa, the Middle East, and at sea, expanding the war beyond European borders. The entry of the United States in 1917 was a turning point, shifting the balance of power decisively towards the Allies. But why did the U.S., initially isolationist, decide to join this European conflict? German unrestricted submarine warfare, sinking American ships, was a major factor in U.S. entry. The Zimmermann Telegram, a German attempt to enlist Mexico against the U.S., further inflamed American public opinion. President Woodrow Wilson framed US entry as a mission to make the world safe for democracy. American industrial might and manpower tipped the scales, leading to Germany's eventual defeat. But the war's end didn't bring lasting peace. Instead, it sowed the seeds for future conflicts. The Treaty of Versailles, imposed on Germany, was harsh and created resentment that fueled extremism. Germany was forced to accept full responsibility for the war and pay massive reparations, crippling its economy. The redrawing of European borders created new nations, but also new ethnic tensions and disputes. The collapse of empires, like Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire, led to instability in Eastern Europe and the Middle East. And here's a critical insight. Many historians argue that World War II was a direct consequence of unresolved issues from World War I. The Treaty of Versailles, intended to prevent future wars, arguably made another war more likely. The interwar period saw the rise of fascism and extremism in Europe, partly fueled by WWI's aftermath. The lessons of World War I are still relevant today, highlighting the dangers of nationalism, militarism, and unchecked ambition. Understanding World War I helps us recognize similar patterns in current global tensions and conflicts. So what are the key takeaways from this deep dive into World War I? First, the war wasn't just about one event. It was the culmination of long-term systemic issues. Second, the alliance system, intended to maintain peace, actually amplified the risk of large-scale conflict. Third, the brutal reality of trench warfare exposed the horrific consequences of industrialized warfare. Finally, the peace treaty failed to address the root causes of conflict, leading to future instability. We started by asking if everything you knew about World War I was just scratching the surface. Hopefully, now you see a much more complex and nuanced picture of this pivotal historical event. We've explored the political machinations, the human cost, and the long-lasting consequences of World War I. From the tangled alliances to the trenches and the flawed peace, WWI's story is full of unexpected twists and turns. And just like in World War I, understanding the deeper context is crucial to preventing future global catastrophes. Think about how these historical patterns of nationalism and rivalry are still playing out today. This isn't just history. It's a lesson in understanding the present and shaping a better future. If you found these insights valuable and want to delve deeper into 20th century history, subscribe now. In our next video, we'll unravel the mysteries of World War II, building upon the foundations we've laid here. Let me know in the comments what aspects of World War I you found most surprising or thought-provoking. Your questions and discussions help build a community of informed and engaged learners. Thanks for joining me on this journey through history. Let's keep learning and exploring together.